Welcome to That's Good Broncos. I am Brandon Perna. Today we're doing the Broncos vs. Chargers prediction episode where I break down the matchups between both teams like I know what the hell I'm talking about. Sure, I'm 9-2 on the season, just like the Broncos. Yes, I predicted the Broncos to beat the Patriots. So, am I tooting my own horn? Oh yeah, I'm tooting it as hard as I can fucking toot my own fucking horn. That's Good Broncos. Predictions. This game between the Chargers and Broncos will be at Qualcomm Stadium right off of Friars Road, about a half mile past Costco, IKEA, and all the people illegally parked at OG's Pizza. The temperature is supposed to be 73 degrees. I believe half the stadium will be filled with Broncos fans, but I'm giving the Chargers a half point for home field advantage, even though every player on the Broncos roster will be looking forward to that 50-degree increase in game time temperature. Gary Kubiak versus Mike McCoy. I can't really knock Mike McCoy for San Diego's performance this season. They've been decimated by injuries, and I like Mike McCoy. Just look how trim he is. The Chargers are finally getting healthy, and they just beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, but I simply cannot overrule Gary Kubiak sticking it to Bill Belichick in overtime last weekend. Keep running it, Kubiak. Half point here for the Broncos. Brock Osweiler versus Phillip Rivers. Brock Osweiler just went toe-to-toe with Tom Brady and the Patriots. And Tom's fungal-ridden toes cannot compete with Brock's giant pedicured feet. Brock's thrown 4 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and has taken 11 sacks this season. His stats aren't going to turn any heads. But when the game is on the line, a Brockwork orange is cool. Phillip Rivers has been the lone bright spot on this Chargers team this season. He has kept his team in every game minus their blowout loss to the Chiefs 2 weeks ago. The Chargers are 3-8 despite his 100.1 season QB rating, meaning if Rivers was on any other team, he'd be in the playoff race with light MVP discussion. Rivers has thrown for 3,511 yards and 23 touchdowns. Phil also ranks number 1 in terms of accuracy and is great pushing the ball deep down the field. And he likes it when I call him Phil. I have to give Phil a full point advantage. Now, if Osweiler wasn't heading into San Diego with exactly 666 passing yards on the season, I'd consider giving Brock the edge. Unless, did Brock steal the Devil's love from Tom Brady last week? Is his 666 yards a good thing? Only time will tell. 1 point Chargers. Running backs versus running backs. One reason Phillip Rivers has a small chance to break the single season passing yardage record is because the Chargers cannot run the football. Their first round selection, Melvin Gordon, has yet to eclipse 100 yards in a game this season, and has an underwhelming 510 rushing yards on the season. The threat coming out of the San Diego backfield is Danny Woodhead catching passes. If the Broncos can contain Woodhead, they have a chance to dominate the day on the defensive side of the ball. Look for Danny to have at least 5 catches, sneaking out of the backfield. But the Broncos' CJ Anderson is walking tall with a game-winning 48-yard touchdown run, an Offensive Player of the Week award, and a career as a doctor after football, as he personally delivered Cody Latimer's baby earlier this week. 2 of the 3 last statements are true. Ronnie Hillman rushed for over 100 yards against Chicago, and CJ surpassed 100 against New England. San Diego's defense is almost as bad as Chicago's against the run, ranking 26th in the league, but has allowed 4 times the amount of rushing touchdowns with 12. I'd look for CJ or Ronnie to have another big game, especially in the red zone. Half point here for the Broncos. Broncos receivers versus Chargers second. Airy. Emmanuel Sanders returned to the field Sunday night, healthy and ready to dominate, which he did with 6 catches for 113 yards and an average of 18.8 yards per catch. When he's hot, Sanders is my favorite offensive player to watch for the Broncos because he catches everything thrown in his province like a Roman senator. Demaryius Thomas had an awful game, dropping all but 1 catch. His catch at the end of the game was huge, but he has to get his head right moving forward. If he and Sanders can both get hot this weekend, San Diego will not have an answer for them. Well, even if they're not hot, the Chargers may not have an answer for the Broncos receiving corps. Cornerback Brandon Flowers currently ranks as the 110th best corner in the league. I feel for my fellow of the same name, as I currently rank as the 110th best NFL anchor. Neither of us are performing well. On the other side, Jason Verrett, when healthy, is an excellent corner, and their nickel corner, Patrick Robinson, currently has a higher rating than Bradley Roby. 2 out of 3 corners isn't bad, but on the back end, their safeties, Eric Weddle, Jimmy Wilson, and Jaleel Adai, have been harassed by receivers all season. Eric Weddle is normally a top 5 safety, but he's been fighting a groin injury since week 7. He's not on the injury report this week, so expect a good game from him. Even if he plays well, I'm giving the Denver receivers a half point in this matchup because Brandon Flowers is no longer Mr. Brightside. Corner. Broncos offensive line versus Chargers front 7. The Denver Broncos offensive line is clicking as a run-blocking unit. There are still questions in terms of pass blocking, especially with the quarterback who likes to hold on to the football a little bit too long. The X factor here is Max Garcia, who is emerging as a dominant guard. The Broncos may call on Garcia again this weekend as Luis Vasquez recovers from a groin injury. The problem for San Diego is they do not have anyone in that defensive front 7 that scares the piss out of offenses. Their strength is at outside linebacker with Melvin Ingram and Jerry Atauchu. Atauchu is the most well-rounded player who can stop the run, play in coverage, and pass rush effectively. He will be the focus for the O-line. Ingram can cause quarterback pressure, but is not great in coverage. If you couple that with well below average play from Manti Te'o and Donald Butler as inside linebackers, the Broncos should have success in the middle of the field. San Diego's big men dude boys, Corey Liuget, Ryan Carruthers, and Kendall Reyes don't excel in any one area. Typically, I try to look beyond the overall rating of a player, or in this case, group of players, to see if, despite their average or below average rating, they excel in pass rushing or run stopping. Sometimes a D-line makes up for being poor pass rushers by being terrific run stoppers. San Diego does not stand out as either. I'd look for the Broncos O-line to have its best game of the season against this front 7. Half-point Broncos. Chargers offensive line versus Broncos front 7. Injuries have hampered what could have been a dominant offensive line this season for the Chargers. Right guard DJ Fluker may not play as he's in the mysterious cloud of the NFL concussion protocol. Right now, brother of the Wire's Avon Barksdale, Joe Barksdale, is the best player on the line by far. He's sort of like our Evan Mathis. Denver could have picked him up in free agency this offseason if they were thinking. On the left side, King Dunlap and Orlando Franklin have been up and down with injuries and performance. I sort of expect Franklin to play well against his former team, but it will be tough with Trevor Robinson snapping the ball to his right. Robinson is one of the poorest performing centers in the league, so maybe, just maybe, Darius Kilgo or Vance Walker, whoever fills in for Sylvester Williams, can have a big game. Von Miller will tee off against Barksdale, so he's going against San Diego's best. Derek Wolfe dominated the Patriots line, and I expect that to continue this week. Rivers will be under pressure on Sunday, and I give the Denver front 7 a full point advantage. Tight ends versus tight ends. Next to Phillip Rivers, the strength on this San Diego offense is at the tight end position. Ladarius Green and Antonio Gates are both matchup problems for safeties or linebackers or whoever draws the short straw and has to cover these guys. Gates scored 2 touchdowns last week, and he and Rivers have the chemistry of a happily married, childless couple whose sex life is still on fire. He also has more career receiving touchdowns than any active player in the NFL. The Denver tight ends were a bit quiet last week. I believe that will be different against the Chargers, whose defense is weak in the middle, but out of respect for Gates and a pretty good Ladarius Green, I'm giving the Chargers half-point advantage. Broncos secondary versus Chargers receivers. When receiver Keenan Allen went on IR, the Chargers offense took a significant blow, and not the good kind. Or the other good kind. You know what I mean. Allen was on pace to finish the season with 1,400 plus receiving yards, but now the Chargers are left with Malcolm Floyd, Stevie Johnson, and Dontrell Inman. Floyd and Johnson are solid veterans whose biggest advantage Sunday will be their size. Johnson is 6'2", and Floyd is 6'5". We saw Aqib Talib cover Megatron with success earlier this season, and I expect him to do the same against Malcolm Floyd. Stevie Johnson has played in the slot quite a bit this season, so I'd anticipate Chris Harris to cover him. The Chargers receivers are an upgrade from what New England deployed last weekend, and I don't expect it to be an easy day for the Broncos secondary, especially with Gates and Green in the mix. We know what we're getting with Talib, Roby, and Harris, and I'm confident in their ability to cover these big receivers. The guys who have to play well this weekend are David Bruton filling in for TJ Ward and Omar Bolden coming in on dime situations. Bruton has been up and down in terms of consistency in pass coverage, but we've seen him make several big plays this year in key situations, and I am confident in his ability to fill in for Ward. Since TJ is still out, I'll give Denver a .25 advantage. Special teams versus special teams. I fully expect Brandon McManus to be more effective kicking field goals since he won't be playing in a minor blizzard this weekend. However, the Chargers have found themselves a pretty reliable kicker in Josh Lambo. I have no idea why the Packers didn't pick up Lambo. He, like McManus, has only missed 2 kicks this season. Neither team is dynamic in the return game, so I'm calling this a wash. That leaves us with the final score of 2 for the Chargers and 3.25 for the Broncos. Look, this is a divisional game, and Phillip Rivers could be a real hassle for the Broncos defense. I believe the Broncos have the all-around better team, and after defeating the 10-0 Patriots, I have a lot of confidence in this team, especially if they keep running the ball the way Kubiak wants to. But the Broncos have shown a tendency to play to the level of their competition this season, and that's why I'm picking the Chargers to win this one. I'm just kidding. It'll be close, but the Broncos will pull away in the fourth quarter with a 31-20 victory. Thanks for watching That's Good Broncos prediction episode. Make sure you subscribe here. Give me a follow on Twitter at Brandon Perna. And I just put up some new Brockwork orange shirts on my website, ThatsGoodSports.com. Click the Buy Shit button, and you can get Brockwork orange shirts just in time for Christmas. If you use the promo code Mary15, you get 15% off of any of your orders.